If Islam comes out and tells us, I've got 3 fights left, we should all go, man, we got to lock in. We saw Khabib do it, and he never looked back. That should be worrisome to us as mixed martial arts fans.
Very close fight. But right now, Islam is going to go fight for a second title. Well deserved. Nobody in the UFC right now in any division doing what Islam Makhachev do.
Daniel Cormier reveals Islam Makhachev's surprise retirement talks, stating that Dana White isn't happy about it. Rumors of Islam Makhachev's early retirement have begun to ripple across the MMA world, leaving fans and insiders both shocked and concerned about what the future might hold for one of the sport's most dominant champions. As the current pound-for-pound king prepares for a possible welterweight title shot, the idea that he may only have a few more fights left in his career is becoming a serious conversation.
Of course, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be here. If I'm gonna be alive, I'm gonna be here for Usman, Umar, Abu Bakr, Zuba, Islam, like Tagir, like all of these guys. I think maybe like 34 Islam can finish.
For fans who have watched Islam's rise through the lightweight division, the idea of him leaving the game so soon feels abrupt. He has dominated every opponent in his path and continues to get better, and now that he's finally in talks for a second belt, the timing of a possible retirement feels strange and even disappointing. Makhachev has a chance to do what very few have done before: hold titles in 2 weight classes, continue a winning legacy, and push his name even further into the all-time greats conversation.
You know, Islam is actually 34 too, or gonna be 34, so it isn't like he's really gonna be around much longer, I don't think, you know, based on how the Dagestani guys, the mentality on Team Khabib, you know, is, and Islam having enough money to do what he wants to do the rest of his life. So let's see, you know, the challenge is more, for me, it's being able to get a legacy going for him, and getting the welterweight title is a hell of a legacy to have. I'm anticipating, yes, I'm anticipating we'll see him for maybe...
Daniel Cormier, a UFC Hall of Famer and longtime teammate of Makhachev, has voiced his concerns over the potential impact of Islam stepping away from the sport too soon. In a recent video on his YouTube channel, Cormier reacted to the comments made by Makhachev's coach, Javier Mendez, who suggested the lightweight champion might be nearing the end of his fighting career. Cormier didn't hide his disappointment or worry, especially considering Makhachev's current position at the top of the sport.
Islam Makhachev might have 3 fights, including Jack Della Maddalena. That right there is where our energy should be spent as Islam fans. How in the world does it feel like another dominant champion may be saying it's about time?
He pointed out that the fans should be focusing their energy on the potential matchups Islam still has ahead, possibly just 3 more fights, with one being against Jack Della Maddalena. That possible clash has caught the attention of many, not only for its competitiveness, but because it could mark one of the final times fans see Makhachev inside the cage. Cormier found it unsettling to consider that yet another dominant fighter might be ready to walk away, especially one so young, still in his prime, and with a chance to make history by becoming a double champion.
Young, he's the world champ, he's dominating. He's getting an opportunity to become a double champ. Why? I think that we are in a time right now in fighting that, for me as a fan, is very sad. I don't believe for a second, though, that it's going to change. But when they all start to walk away, it's sad for the fans.
Cormier highlighted the emotional toll this trend is taking on passionate fans like himself. For him, it's not just about watching a fighter retire, it's about watching someone with so much more to give leave the sport too soon. The only glimmer of hope Cormier could find in the situation was the fact that Makhachev himself hasn't publicly confirmed the plan. So far, it's only been discussed by others around him, leaving room for the possibility that he hasn't made his final decision.
But Islam only has 3 fights. It's scary to me because I know, knowing these guys, the only saving grace right now is that someone else is saying it for him, and he has not said that himself. If Islam comes out and tells us, I've got 3 fights left, we should all go, man, we got to lock in. We saw Khabib do it, and he never looked back. That should be worrisome to us as mixed martial arts fans.
The memory of Khabib Nurmagomedov's early exit from MMA still looms large. Cormier referenced the abrupt nature of Khabib's retirement, emphasizing how once he made up his mind, there was no going back. That pattern seems to be repeating itself now with Makhachev, another fighter from the same team, raised under the same philosophy and values. If Makhachev does eventually say the words himself, that he only has 3 fights left, Cormier believes fans should prepare for the reality of his exit, because the Dagestani fighters are known for sticking to their word once they've made a decision.
We have so many more fights that we want these guys to fight. We want to see him against Jack Della. We want to see him against Usman, and we want to see him against Ilia Topuria. It's crazy.
Meanwhile, Chael Sonnen criticized the UFC for creating confusion around the situation. He argued that the organization hasn't clearly stated whether Islam Makhachev has been stripped of his title or not. Sonnen drew parallels to a similar scenario involving Ilia Topuria, suggesting the UFC has a history of unclear communication. In his view, Islam's opportunity to become a double champ is now gone, effectively taken away with the apparent vacating of the belt.
I don't hate the idea. Here's where my confusion comes in, is how come these things aren't clearer? For example, if you ask Islam if you were stripped, Islam will say no. If you ask the UFC was this stripped, the UFC will say yes. I'm just not sure why these terms aren't clear. If Islam's goal was to go up to 170 so he could obtain champ status, but they take the 55-pound title away, they also take that opportunity to become champ away. But hear me out on this, because they did the same thing to Ilia Topuria, and Ilia is claiming that he wasn't stripped. In fact, not only is Ilia claiming he wasn't stripped, it was as recently as last week on the Errol Hawani program, they swore up and down that Ilia was promised a title shot whether it involved Islam or not.
On the other hand, Daniel Cormier emphasized that it's within the UFC's rights to make decisions according to their preferences. However, he argued that in the case of Islam Makhachev, who has defended titles on short notice multiple times, he deserves the opportunity to become a double champ. Cormier pointed out that the key issue should be clarity on whether a fighter is defending a higher or lower division belt. In Islam's case, he is moving up to defend in a higher weight class, which should be recognized and supported accordingly.
I believe that they are within their right to go, we don't want to tie up 2 divisions. I do also believe, though, that when you get a guy like Islam, who has defended the belt as many times as he's defended, who has been available, who has fought guys on short notice, he fought Moicano on a day's notice. I think in that you get some goodwill, and you should have the opportunity to be a double champion. But here's where you have to have something that's known, is you've got to have a decision for me the moment you have both of those belts. If it happens, you're either staying up and vacating the belt down at the lower weight class.
Sharing his thoughts, Chael Sonnen agreed with Daniel Cormier's points, but expressed strong dislike for the idea of Islam Makhachev moving up in weight. He argued that Islam's decision to move up stems from what he sees as cowardice, pointing out that Makhachev should have fought Belal Muhammad, a top contender he had previously expressed interest in facing. Instead, Chael claimed Islam chose to go after Jack Della Maddalena, leaving behind the legacy he had built so far.
I don't disagree with anything that you just said. I'm just not willing to skip through the flowers like this is a reality. Islam went up not out of courage. Islam did not go up out of adding hardware to put on his mantle. He went up with one condition, which is I don't have to fight Belal Muhammad. Now, he can sit around and say, I could beat Belal, and I wouldn't go up and beat Belal because I can beat Belal. The bottom line is you entered a division openly that you said you wouldn't face one of the top guys. That's not a sign of courage. That's a sign of cowardice. I don't love the idea. You have an undefeated. Make sure you understand what happened. I know this is your friend, DC. I think of Islam as my friend, too. But let's think of what happened. You have an undefeated, #1 ranked world champion who's chasing you down. He is willing to leave his division behind.
Disagreeing with Chael Sonnen, Daniel Cormier pointed out that Islam Makhachev isn't avoiding anyone out of fear, and that skipping a fight with Ilia Topuria is simply because Ilia isn't in the 155-pound division. Cormier emphasized that if Ilia wins the title and moves up, Islam would be open to facing him. He added that if Islam had forced a matchup outside the division structure, it would have turned the whole situation into a circus.
Ilia, I think it's about the fact that if Ilia was a 55-pounder, he would fight him openly. If he was a guy that was at 55 for years, And if Ilya wins the belt and fights a time or two, and he stays at 55, he'd be more than open to fighting him again at 155. But I think it's the smell of the guy being a featherweight that turns you off of it if you're Team Makhachev. It's just the way it is, Shell. And you gotta understand that with these dudes and with Ilya and how bold he is, it feels to me like it would turn into a circus. Now, I don't know that these dudes want to be involved in a circus, being that Khabib was involved in the biggest circus of all time with Conor. That's me.
Meanwhile, prominent MMA manager Ali Abdelaziz stated that if the outcome of the Jack Della Maddalena versus Belal Muhammad fight had been different, Islam Makhachev likely wouldn't have left the division. In his view, Islam is now looking to prove his dominance on a bigger stage. Ali emphasized that if there's anyone who truly deserves the opportunity to become a double champion, it's Islam Makhachev, not just in his opinion, but in Dana White's as well.
After unbelievable fight Belal put on, and I think Belal gained so much fun from this fight, and he'll be back. You know, there's no doubt in my mind. But Islam have beaten everyone in this division. Literally, you know, Dan Hooker, Arman, Charles Oliveira. He's on a 15-fight winning streak. Finished 10 of his last 9 opponents. There's nothing else anybody deserved to go fight for a second title in Islam. And the reason was he wasn't going to do it because Belal was the champion, right? And, you know, in the UFC, he was like, you know, even I was talking to Dana, and he's like, if anybody deserves, Islam can do whatever he wants. And you know, if Islam go up, you know, he's the champion. You know, you have these two guys, Charles Oliveira and Ilya, fighting, and they can fight for the title. But everybody knows who's still the champion of this division, because he never lost the title, right? Now Islam get to fight end of the year.
Ali Abdelaziz went on to express full confidence in Islam Makhachev's ability to defeat Jack Della Maddalena at 170. He also noted that the fight between Jack and Belal Muhammad was extremely close, and he remains confident that if Belal ever gets a rematch, he would come out on top. Ali further asserted that no one else has accomplished in the UFC what Islam has, shutting down critics and justifying his move up to 170 with his track record and dominance.
Fight Jack Maddalena, who's a really good fighter. You know, give credit where all credit due. And I just think Belal, absolute warrior. He just have a little off night, and I believe he can still beat Jack. It was very close fight, but right now Islam he's gonna go fight for a second title, well deserved. Nobody in the UFC right now in any division doing what Islam Makhachev did.
Meanwhile, Daniel Cormier has issued a warning to Islam Makhachev as he moves up to 170, noting that he may face serious challenges in defending the belt. Cormier pointed to Islam's recent fight with Dustin Poirier, where he appeared to struggle with takedowns at times. He emphasized that against Jack Della Maddalena, who just proved his dominance against a strong opponent like Belal Muhammad, Makhachev will need to make significant improvements to deliver a stronger performance this time around.
Islam Jack is going to be a great fight, especially seeing Jack defend takedowns in the way that he did. And Islam, he struggled a little to take down Dustin Poirier. He didn't take him down as easily as he had taken down other guys. So I think that for Makhachev, he needs to really lock in on getting that wrestling ready to fight a guy in Jack Della Maddalena, who showed great takedown defense. And man, this dude's got some good boxing, especially when you're in tight with him. His hands are good in close.
Daniel Cormier went on to emphasize that the build-up to this fight has been incredible so far, calling it a great matchup. However, he also raised concerns about Islam Makhachev competing at 170, noting that we've never seen him in this weight class, and questioning whether his stature and physical frame match up to someone like Jack Della Maddalena. Cormier added that if Jack performs the way he did against Belal Muhammad, this fight could turn out to be even more intriguing.
But you see those guys now already know, hey, we're going to build this thing. We're going to try to make people tune into this thing. They're going to watch regardless. It's a fantastic fight. It's a big-time fight. And if Jack Della looks the way he did last weekend, it's very, very intriguing fight, because we've never seen Islam Makhachev fight up at 170 pounds. We've never seen it. We've never seen him have to compete up 15 more pounds. Yes, he is a big dude, But in terms of full-on stature, is he big as Jack Della Maddalena is? And also, if he thought he may fight International Fight Week, how small had he gotten? And how much time does he have to put the weight back on the right way before he moves up to 170?
Daniel Cormier also pointed out that Islam Makhachev was initially unwilling to vacate his belt, but has now done so to face Jack Della Maddalena. While he acknowledged that this is a commendable step by Islam, he also raised concerns about the potential difficulty Makhachev may face in managing his weight. Despite that, Cormier emphasized that Islam's confidence deserves recognition. Taking on such a tough challenge at 170 shows just how determined he is to prove himself.
So essentially, it seems like Makhachev is open to bouncing up and down. We have not seen anyone do this but Amanda Nunes. Go up to 145, beat fighters like Megan Anderson and those girls, and then go down to 135 and do what she did as the bantamweight champion. It seems and feels like Makhachev thinks he can do the same thing. That's difficult. That's hard, especially once you get that belt at the next weight class. Why do I have to cut the weight when I'm the champion?
With Jack's win, the anticipated fight between Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev may have slipped away, but interestingly, Ilia himself had sensed this matchup was coming. In a conversation with Joe Rogan, he mentioned his belief that the fight would eventually happen. Joe also shared his thoughts, adding fuel to the speculation around a bout that has now become the talk of the town.
Even if he wins, they're gonna make that fight happen against Islam.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, if Jack Della Maddalena wins, then Jack is the new welterweight champion. And, you know, maybe he fights Islam. That makes a lot of sense. The problem with Islam fighting Bilal is that they train together. And I think, you know, they had kind of said
how many guys we see fighting between each other that they used to train before?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think they should fight.
Yeah, they should fight.
I definitely think they should fight. I think Khabib doesn't like that idea.
Yeah.
They have 500 fighters in the roster, at least.
Meanwhile, Brendan Schaub, sharing his thoughts on Jack Della Maddalena's upcoming fight, noted that Islam Makhachev could be even more dangerous at 170 than at 155. He expressed strong confidence in Maddalena's abilities, referencing his performance against Bilal Muhammad and highlighting that with Craig Jones in his corner, Jack is shaping up to be a perfectly formidable opponent.
JDM beat his ass and forced him to fight his fight, forced him to keep it on the feet. When they got in close, he really took advantage of it, and he just dominated him. JDM looked fantastic. Dominate him. You know, even though this fight card sucked Bigfoot's dick, there were serious implications because we know if Bilal lost, then we're gonna get Islam up at 170, which is exciting. I think Islam's a bigger problem at 70 than he is 55. I think Islam not cutting all that weight and fighting at 70 is such a problem, And we'll find out, because JDM's the perfect guy to go against Islam, especially with Craig Jones in his corner, the Dagestani killer.
Furthermore, Brendan pointed out that after watching Jack Della Maddalena's success against Bilal Muhammad, he's even more intrigued by the upcoming fight with Islam Makhachev. He predicted that the outcome will heavily depend on Makhachev's approach and suggested that Islam would need to start strong and engage early to make the fight even more electrifying.
After watching JDM and have that success against Bilal, I'm even more intrigued again for JDM versus Makhachev now. I think Makhachev's gonna have his hands full. If JDM beats him, good God, that's crazy. It's all gonna be predicated on can Makhachev get him down and early.
Giving his insights, Charles Oliveira stated that Jack Della Maddalena is a fighter who breaks opponents down gradually, wearing them out as he moves forward. He noted that Islam Makhachev is a completely different type of challenge and could be even stronger at 170. Oliveira emphasized that Maddalena will need to adjust his game plan and adopt a more grappling-focused approach to be successful against Islam.
O que você acha que ganha entre o Jack Della Maddalena e o Islam?
O Maddalena, ele é um jogo muito complicado, porque ele é um cara que ele não vem pra te nocautear rápido, ele vem pra te finalizar, ele vem te magoando, né?
Aos poucos, né?
Aos poucos. Foi o que ele fez agora na luta contra o Bilal. Só que eu acho que o Islam vai se dar muito bem nessa categoria, né, mano? Agora vai estar muito mais forte, é um jogo que, tipo, ele gosta de agarrar e botar pra baixo. Eu acho que o Jack Maddalena fazia a mesma luta que ele fez, né, agora contra o Bilal, batendo, movimentando, saindo, machucando, é uma luta, mas se deixar o Islam agarrar e botar pra baixo é o time.
And if Islam Makhachev really is riding off into the sunset, then every fight from here on out isn't just another bout. It's part of a farewell tour from one of the greatest to ever do it. Whether it's 3 fights or just 1, the clock is ticking. So buckle up, fight fans, because when legends hint at walking away, history is about to be made. Don't blink, you might miss the final chapter.